Guests on Keel appear via the Jack Spring Electric Keel Newsmaker hotline. Ms. Sherricka Fields-Jones is the Chief Financial Officer for the City of Shreveport. Hey, Ms. Sherricka, welcome back to Keel. Hope you are well. How you doing today?
Good morning. I'm fine. I hope you all are well also.
Well, you're the Chief Financial Officer now. Hey, congratulations.
Welcome to 2020.
Never quite planned on a deal like this, did you? How you doing?
No, this is not something that anyone in the world has planned for. And I am doing fine. I could be doing better considering the situation right now that we have to deal with. But we will get through it.
Now, we started off, we're talking belt tightening at City Hall. Out of necessity, the number $25 million in funds shortage, tax dollars shortage, not through the end of the year, but through the end of April is the number being tossed around. The mayor, the important folks, if you will, at City Hall, the upper echelon, a 10% pay cut. Take us into those meetings. Tell us what you guys talked about.
So I've spent a lot of hours just looking at the big picture of where we are as far as the city's financials are concerned. And as you mentioned already, we were in a situation where the belt was already tight. We had conversations and talked about what it is that we can do from a leadership standpoint. And from that, the mayor did step forward and offered to, for himself, to take consideration as far as the cut is concerned. And leadership is on board with that because we all do understand, just from having to work with a budget every year, of how tight it is already. And then considering the fact that now we're under a stay-at-home order, and that order could occur, we know, through April, but even further to be continued is a possibility, or to be determined. Mm-hmm. We have sales taxes that are on the line, and the top 50% of the industries that are hit the hardest are those that account for the majority of sales tax revenue. So we're expecting an unprecedented loss of revenue. Of course, we're monitoring it because we don't know how long this will last. We don't know how much of an impact it will have on the city. So yes, we were looking through April initially, but then of course we also know that this could go even further depending on when the release or the public threat is relieved. Maybe April, maybe later, and there may be some remnants of it may occur throughout the rest of the year.
Can you give us some places where the city could cut the budget? Because you're having to look at other cuts. There's no doubt about it. I mean, this is a start, but there are going to be more. And I know you want to brace the citizens for that and the city workers too. What are some ideas you're tossing around or thinking about?
So the first place we considered is looking at everything, of course, but the kind of the picture that I painted with the mayor and what we talked about is if you look at our expenditures as kind of a funnel, and you start with everything that we have budgeted, about $208 million for the general fund. Well, when you account for people, that's $150 million. And then when you take away the subsidies that we provide to sports training, for example, to community development, you take another $20 million out of that. And then you account for how much we pay just in utilities and gas. That's $6 million. So we started to kind of take away those things that are kind of like the bread and butter and the things that we need to do to keep the lights on, to make sure that citizens and the employees that we're providing, we are obligated to for them, then it leaves a very narrow amount that we're left to work with. So we're looking at things that, of course, do not affect people, do not affect services. But then, of course, we have to put everything on the table, just considering the fact.
So are layoffs a real possibility?
Again, we're assessing the situation, and we know that the losses are going to be there, but exactly what that impact is, we're still looking to and monitoring to make a determination based on what we see. Obviously, that's something that we want to avoid. That is not something that we want our employees to experience. But at this point, we have to look at everything and make sure that we're also considering the health of our city from a financial standpoint as well.
Ms. Sherricka, right now, not only is a lot of money not coming in, but I would imagine because of the coronavirus situation, there are added expenses for the city right now, too. Is that right? What are those?
Yeah, and there's on both sides of it. Our first responders, of course, are having to suit up, so to speak, and to beef up their efforts to be responsive to this emergency. Also, on the other side, we do have some savings that are occurring just simply because of the fact that, the lights are dim, so to speak. The SPAR centers are, currently not open. We also looking at other savings that are occurring because we have a number of employees that are working remotely. So on both sides, we have some savings that we're seeing, as well as increased expenditures. The good news is that because we are expecting to receive some reimbursement from FEMA for those expenditures that we have to put out to go above and beyond to be responsive, a percentage of those will be reimbursable at some point in the near future.
Are there some city employees that are no longer working, and so you're no longer paying them? And how many is that, if there are some?
Our employees are being paid. Right now, today, and employees are on the payroll. We have not made any decisions to scale back on pay to employees at this point.
What about city services that you could cut back, trim, change to save money? And I'll give you an idea, and I don't even know if it was tossed on the table. Every other week, garbage pickup. Has that been suggested at all, or any other ideas like that?
Yes, you are thinking like a lot of us are. We are looking at services as well that potentially can be scaled back, or even scaled back just for a short time frame. So yes, we're looking at those things as well, and then also considering the fact that because the stay-at-home order is in place, there's some things that we can't do. Looking into the next several months, we can look at those things that we typically would do, events and things of that nature that may not happen. So yes, we are considering the scope of inventory of services and what can be done potentially to either scale back to not affect the citizens too much.
Ms. Sherricka, you had mentioned a couple of seconds ago reimbursement money of some amount from FEMA. How's about the other federal funds, maybe state funds, but more specifically the federal dollars that might be coming our way? Do you have an idea how much that could be and when we could have it?
Well, of course, the meter's still out as far as how much more assistance that will come as far as government is concerned. So we're monitoring that closely. The funds that we have seen that could be coming down the pipeline at this point are more centered toward, again, being responsive to the emergency and making sure that the businesses and the people have access to funding, considering the hardships a lot of them may be going through right now. Any money that is coming down the pipeline right now, we have not seen it to be able to be used to basically continue to do the things that we would do already, so to speak. So I don't know at this point if we will receive money to kind of reimburse ourselves for additional, the regular expenditures that we do annually. And hopefully that will come. But for right now, we definitely will have to look internally first, because we cannot predict if or when that will even happen.
Possibility of another bond issue just for operating expenses.
Again, that is another option that we have put on the table that is available. And of course, if we get to that point, we can weigh the pros and cons of that.
I know this is a sacred cow to many, the city's retirement program. Have you looked at limiting the contributions to that? Is that an option, or are you legally bound to do what you do there?
There is some limitations that we have regarding influencing our contributions to retirement. So there's not a whole lot that we can do, simply because we have over the years been trying to beef up our contributions to make sure that we're contributing at the level that we should be as required by the actuary. We've been receiving reports from our investment advisor with retirement on a weekly basis, and they're making sure that we are in the loop as far as the health of how that is going. But then again, we do still have a board that can meet and convene virtually to still make some decisions to see if there's anything that we can do. So yes, that is an option that is on the table.